So you want to start by cutting two pieces of 3mm craft foam, and you want the bigger one to be big enough to fit around your wrist, and the smaller one to be 2 inches smaller than the other one. And that's going to fit right inside. You just hot glue that in there, and what that'll do is give you the thickness while still making it easy to bend. And you just want to curve it around while the hot glue is drying so that it stays curved in that shape a little bit. So then you want to get yourself a finger light, and I'll put the link to where you can get these in the info box. And you just want to draw a circle around the center of the foam big enough to accommodate it, and then just cut that out with a pair of scissors or an x-acto knife so that you get a nice hole. You'll cut through both the layers of the foam so that you end up with a nice hole there in the middle. Then take a rectangle of foam and cut it so that it's long enough to go around the inside of the circle. Put a little hot glue on the edges and hot glue the edges together so that it forms a circle. Then put a little bit of glue on the bottom, very bottom edge of that circle. Then you'll just hot glue that right into the circle you cut out of the wristband. Scrunch it down in there. And so then you want to take a plastic milk or juice jug cap. If there's any writing on it, just take a pair of scissors and scrape it off until you have a nice clean white cap. And then you want to cut a circle of craft foam that's the same size as your cap. And you just want to cut the hourglass shape out of that with an x-acto knife right in the center of your craft foam circle. And so then once you have the hourglass cut out, you just take a little bit of hot glue on the back of that, and then you'll just hot glue it right to the top of your cap, just like that. So then you'll take a rectangle of foam, not quite as tall as the cap, you want it to be just a little bit shorter than the cap, and you're going to wrap that all the way around the cap, making sure the top is flush with the piece of foam that you cut the hourglass out of. And that should leave just a little bit of space on the bottom of the cap. So then cut a circle out of another piece of craft foam, black if possible, if not you can paint it later. You just hot glue that on over the hourglass piece, and you can see the plain bottom of the cap. So then just put a little bit of hot glue where that opening is, where the plain cap is exposed, and then you'll just scrunch that right inside the other circle that you cut before. They should be about the same size. Just line them up. And I realized that I have the hourglass the wrong way. I realized it later and I fixed it later, but for now it's just facing the wrong way. That's what it looks like when you light the green light up underneath it. Shines through the cap nicely. And so then just take a pair of scissors and you just want to cut a notch out of each side of the wristband. You want them to be angled notches, and then you might use a little x-acto knife to finish getting it out. But then you'll cut the piece out, and you'll just use that as a guide to cut one out on the other side as well. Just another nice little notch, one out on each side of the circle part of the wristband. And so here it is with the notches cut out on each side. And so then I just took some gunmetal gray paint, and I painted the edges of it, and it's slightly metallic, which makes it look a little bit more realistic. So you want to paint all the edges, and then around the raised circles, and around the hourglass. And then you want to take a piece of 5mm craft foam and you want to cut it in a circle, very small circle, and just put a little bit of hot glue on the bottom of it, and then just stick that on one side of the wristband. And so then you want to paint the sides of that with the gunmetal gray paint as well. And so then you'll move on to the black paint, and you'll want to make sure that the edges on these are a little bit cleaner because you'll actually see these. So you paint the main part of the wristband black, and then you just want to line around the hourglass with a very thin line of the black paint, just like that. And then you want to take some sticky back velcro and put two pieces on one side of the wristband on the outside, on the top side, just like that. And then you want to put the corresponding two pieces on the underside of the other side of the wristband. Make sure that they line up with the ones you got on the other side, so that you'll be able to just wrap that right around your wrist and the velcro will hold it on the bottom side. And so then I cut 4 long thin pieces of white craft foam, and if you have like clothesline or something that'd be better because they were rounded, but I'm just using the craft foam even though it's flat because that's what I have. So you just want to put a little bit of hot glue on the bottom of it and then stick those on. You'll do 2 on one side and then 2 on the other side. So then finally I took some neon green puffy paint and I put on the 4 dots on the dial and then the green circle down on the little button. And then you can also, if you want to, you can color in the hourglass a little bit of green so that it shows up green even when your light is not on. And then of course once you turn the light on, it gets even greener and glows, which is kind of a nice effect, especially if you're in the dark. And so then the way you actually get the light in is you just slide it right into that hole there, click it on, and then when you put the wristband over your wrist, when you fasten it, your wrist will actually hold the finger light in there. And so then here it is when it's all finished.